Entrepreneurs aren't born, they're brewed. You are now listening to the Entrepreneur Podcast with your host, Adam McChesney. Let's grow!
Welcome to another episode of the Entrepreneur Podcast. I'm your host, Adam McChesney, and I want to thank you for being here today. If you're listening, please be sure to subscribe to the show and leave us a 5-star review on Apple and Spotify. We would love for you to share this on social media by tagging me and our guests, and this way we can get this incredible content out to more people. Today, I'm joined by someone I've never actually talked to or met before, so really looking forward to the conversation to get to know him better. But I feel like I've known him for years just from what I followed online. I have the utmost respect for him and what he does, and we've supported each other's journey from a distance. He's connected to a lot of people that are in my network that I look up to, and for me, that's huge. He's doing some amazing things out there in the speaking and business world while gearing up for a massive event next year, which we'll talk about. I want to bring him on here today to share his story and make an impact on all of you. My guest today is Michael Fabber. He has many titles from father, son, coach, speaker, consultant, author, entrepreneur, strategist, and much more, while being the CEO at UnleashU Now. Michael, welcome to the show.
What's up, brother? Thanks for having me, man. I'm honored to be here.
Yeah, man. I've been following you for a while. Just love your energy. I love what you're doing. And so anytime I see that, I have to have those types of people on my podcast, man. So kudos to you. But we'd love to start the episode out by just getting to know you a little bit better. Tell us about your history. Tell us where you came from, how you got to where you're at today, and some of the things you're working on.
Man, so I'm like a classic story of like someone that does everything wrong and still finds a way, right? Like that's why I tell anybody, like, you can do it. Because if I'm still here doing it, anyone can do it, right? Like I'm not special. I pretty much made every mistake you could do, literally, I think, and still here. I'm a New York City kid. I was born in New York City, Queens, New York. I know I look like I'm from the backwoods of West Virginia. It's in disguise now. I live in Delaware now, so I fit right in.
Yeah.
But originally from New York City, I had 3 brothers, 2 older sisters. Everybody's older than me. I'm the youngest. My dad said I was such a troublemaker that if I was the first, I would have been the only. So I learned from my brothers and sisters all the trouble they could do, and I wanted to outdo them.
Yeah.
So I did. From like 12 years old to 20 years old, I was in and out of juvie and in and out of jail. I thought I was going to be a great fighter, and I just learned I was good at getting punched. Right? So I got like barely lost most of my teeth from it. I was like, damn, all right, this sucks. Dude, like literally everything I could do wrong, I did, man. My brother was one of the 22 that served the country and took his own life. Man, it happened when I was like 12. What happened is where I came from, man, we weren't hurt, man. We were angry. All right. So 12 years old, I was angry. Right. Like in high school, I dared a buddy of mine to steal a car to get to this party. He stole the car, got in an accident and died. So then I had guilt and shame, right, and hurt. And so again, I'm angry, more and more angry. My dad dies when I'm a teenager. So then again, I'm angry. Right. So it's just that common. And I didn't know how to express myself or talk about it. When I was younger, I didn't want to, right? I didn't want to be judged or seen that way. You know, I would rather determine my identity than accept a label. All right. And that was pretty much my life. I didn't want to be what anyone, don't feel bad for me. Right. I'll fight. Don't feel bad for me. Right. So at 20 years old, I'm facing 20 plus years in jail. I get shot at and I find out I'm going to be a dad. And that was the day I was like, you know what? Something's got to give. All right. I originally said I have to change. But we know that's more difficult. So what I did was I moved. Right? I moved to Delaware because who the hell gets in trouble in Delaware? That was really my thinking. It's pretty much true. No one gets in trouble in Delaware. It's hard. So I moved to Delaware, opened up my first like legit brick and mortar business. I opened up a restaurant and bar and started my journey in the entrepreneur space, but I was still a fraud. I was still a fake. I didn't deal with anything that was interior. It wasn't until 2011 that I had to deal with that. And that's only because another one of my buddies took his own life, one of my best friends. So kind of made me lose my mind a little bit. I ended up like suicidal on the beach in Lewis, gun in my mouth, gun didn't go off. Spoiler alert. Clearly I survived. Right. And I did. So I listened to personal growth tape. My boy was like, you got to find personal growth, man. All right. And on the tape, it was like, I'm old. Right. So I said tape. It said, you're out there, you just got to find yourself, right? And I was literally like, oh, no one ever told me that before. So I disappeared and had a missing person report for me as I hitchhiked across the country, looking behind every tree, in every bush, and under every rock, trying to find me.
Wow.
All right. And that's kind of where I found purpose, though. So led me to here.
Wow, man. That's an incredible story, and one that I'm sure has lessons at every corner, which helped you kind of get to where you're at today. And the adversity, I think, of just situation after situation, not a lot of people have to go through that. And you're obviously better for it here. Talk to me a little bit. Obviously, you mentioned that you opened up that first business and then you went in and kind of traveled. What were some things when you were looking for that purpose? What were some things that you found out?
Man, people are interesting breeds. I found a lot of people are good. Typically, we hear about the bad.
Yeah.
Right. That's the news, right?
Yeah.
That's the social media. That's it. We'll harp on the negative. We'll harp on the bad. But there's a lot of good people out there, man. People, they gave me rides. They let me in. They gave me food. Like they took care of me, a stranger. Right? They didn't know me, and I don't look like I'm the friendliest person. Right. And then I learned that the search for us isn't out there; it's within. And I don't know how much you know about Alabama, especially Mobile, Alabama. And I hear there's some really good parts there. I just wasn't in them.
Yeah.
And that's where my hitchhike journey ended. And it was just, I thought I was going to be really good at basketball. I literally had the number 22 tattooed on my back because I thought I was going to be in the NBA. That was my jersey number.
Yeah.
Right? And needless to say, that didn't work.
Yeah.
Right? And a basketball coach once told me, he said, did anyone breathe easier because you existed? And the answer at that point in my life was like, no. And that was sad to me. So I started finding purpose in just making sure I was doing things that made people breathe easier.
Love that. And so you went on this journey. What happened after the hitchhiking journey? Obviously, there's probably some gap between where we're at now and when that ended.
100%. Right. So I come back to Delaware. I kick in the door of my best friend's house. One of my best friends. He's like, what the hell? And I'm like, we're gonna change the world, right? And he's like, what? I'm like, we're going to change the world. And his question was, how high am I? Yeah. And I was like, I'm not. I'm actually sober. And it was during that time, it was like one of the few days I was, right? So I'm like, I am completely sober right now. We're going to change the world. He's like, people like us don't change the world. I'm like, we're exactly who changes the world. And they're like, how are we going to do that? I was like, one person at a time. But I had no idea what we were going to do one person at a time, right? So I started with like manners, man. I would like hold the door at like the gas stations or supermarkets and stuff for people. Yeah. I'd get their carts and bring it back. Just make life easier. Do something nice. My studies were in human behavior and neuroscience. I'm a big nerd, even though I look like I hunt squirrels. So I started seeing how we could help people. And one of the things for me is I've had businesses from literally like a teenager. I had a A&M Assessors and More business. And we sold talk about something you can't do now. We took magazines door to door and would sell like household collectibles, decor, right? Patriotic items from this magazine to people's houses. Now people would think you were scamming the hell out of them. But back then people would actually give you money for it, right? This is before like e-commerce was really a thing. Yeah. So like we would do that. And my buddy actually built a e-commerce site. Okay. And he was it was like one of the first 100 e-commerce sites built. Wow. And that became gold. Yeah. Right. And the whole time I was like, you're wasting your time on that computer thing, right? Like you got to be out here selling. I had to find out like what I did was actually pointless and what he did was everything. Yeah. Right. So we ended up making a decent penny from that. But so I had businesses the whole time. And then literally we had the restaurant and bar, landscape company, property management company, investment firm, catering company. We have food trucks, right? Like we have a counseling agency. So we have a bunch of different businesses. We're about to launch our bourbon. We're launching a bourbon. Right? Nice. I'm super excited. That's awesome. So I was always solid at business. I learned business at a young age and for years. So after a while of like trying to change people's lives, not knowing how we were doing it, a buddy of mine was like, how about you help? So we want to end suicide and self-induced behavior. We have to reach 1 billion people to do that because the ripple effect then says we hit everybody on earth. Right? We can't do that ourselves. Yeah. So we have to empower those and empower others, right? We have to impact those that impact. So we try to help entrepreneurs that are impactful, empowering entrepreneurs that care about people and impact more than just income. And so that's kind of how we got here, was the long journey of doing one-on-one coaching. And we did like 400 sessions in 1 year and 390 of them were free.
Wow.
Right? So it's a good way not to have a business make money. Right. So it started, right. Then we did some group stuff. Then we started speaking. I was always a dumb kid. I was born without the ability to hear at first. And I didn't get my hearing until I was like 3. So I didn't know how to talk until I was 5.
Wow.
So I was always like a dumb kid. So speaking in front of people was like terrifying. Right. So I never wanted to do that. And then did it one time to help a buddy out. And then a kid came up to me, said some really nice things to me. And I was like, we got to do this. And so it's, it wasn't like, boom, we walked out of Alabama and was like, we have this. And UnleashU Now was originally called CMF because I followed like all the other people that name it after them. Yeah. Right. Yep. And I was like, dude, I don't want this to be about me. I want this to be about everybody. Like everybody can own this. So we switched in 2017 to UnleashU Now.
Love it. And so what are some of the things that you guys do at UnleashU Now, just for the audience?
So we have one-on-one coaching. We have a mastermind. We have about 20 plus events a year. We do some smaller buy-in memberships, a lot of trainings for entrepreneurs and business owners or movement makers. We don't talk about opening a business. We talk about starting movements. Movement-based businesses last longer, sell better, and people decide to buy from more often. Right. So why not build something in that way? It makes sense. So that's a lot of what we do. And we go around and speak a lot and do a lot of trainings and workshops and things of that nature.
Love it. So talk to me a little bit. Obviously, I love that you have such a vast background in entrepreneurship. It's not like, hey, I did one thing and this one thing got me to where I'm at. And so I'm sure that there was obviously a lot of things that were different in every single business, but there's probably some things that business to business is business. So what are 3 things that made you successful along your journey?
I think the first is that I'm stupid, man. Right. So like, I'm persistent as hell because I don't take hints well. Right. I think my younger life getting, into some fights, taught me that I could take a hit and have to keep going, right? You got to keep trying because that's not going to stop, right? They're not going to stop. So you got to keep going to make it stop. Right. So I think persistency, right? Like that grit that we're not going to quit kind of mindset is huge in this because and anyone in the space knows business isn't easy, right? Like getting listeners isn't easy. You got to work at that, right? Like, and try different things and keep getting angles and try this, try here, try it, right? So if it was easy, then we would all do it and we'd be much more successful at it. Most people, we know the deal, 50% of businesses are out within the first, 24 months, right? So, and we know 90% don't make it 10 years. And we know of that, only 4% is profitable. Right? Imagine doing something for 10 years and being like, I'm still losing. Like, Jesus, right? When does the winning happen? Right? So I think we have to be like ignorantly persistent in this space in order to do it. Right. So that was 1. 2, I'm a dreamer, man. Right. Like no one where I came from was doing this. All right. So don't let your surroundings, your environment, the people around you dictate what you see, your vision, and then what you go after. If I let that happen, I wouldn't be here talking to you. I'd be in jail doing drugs or dead. Right. And then the third one, I think, is more of the first 2 are more like tangible things or non-tangible. The third one I like to make like practical. Understand we're in the people business. Every business you're in is about people. The better we can understand them, what they're going through, what they want, what they need, the more likely we are to get them out of their way to purchase something or do something that we're asking them to do in order for them to get the result that we know we can get them.
Love that. I think that's where a lot of people go wrong, is they think that they're in the business of whatever it is. And at the end of the day, if you're not connecting and meeting people where they're at on understanding what's most important to them, putting them first, you've already lost the sale. I've already lost the opportunity to even impact them. And at the end of the day, I loved what you talked about earlier in what you guys coach people to do. You coach people to not build businesses, but to build movements. And that's the long lasting effect, but that's also where the impact and the purpose comes from.
100%, brother. And it's like, it makes it valuable. It makes it important. It's easier to support you because I know you're trying to do something to better something than just make $1 from a product or program.
That is 100% true. I've given 4 or 5 talks in the last month, and the best talks were the ones that I couldn't sell to the audience. Like they were like, even if, they were competitors of mine, they were people that like, I already knew going into it that I just needed to focus on what I was there to do, and everything else takes care for itself. Now, I did good in the other ones, but it was more so like I came off the stage when I spoke on Saturday and I was like, man, I just don't feel like that was as good as I've done. And everybody's coming up to me. That was the best speech we've ever heard anybody that talk about digital marketing. We got sales literally that day from it, and we've gotten sales since. And I was just like, but there's something about taking everything else out of it and focusing on the core of what you're doing, which is impacting people, which is, if it's, even if it's only one person, changing the trajectory of their life. And as you talked about that ripple effect, it goes on and on from there. And that's where the real fun happens.
100%. They say that they can document. This is just what you can document because we can't document everything. Yeah. But they say for every person you impact, that person impacts 10 people because of your impact on them, positive or negatively. Yeah. It doesn't matter, but it's going to be 10 people. That's what they can document. So we know it's more because we can't document everything. Yeah. Right. So that tells you right there the power of your one relationship.
It's huge. It's absolutely huge. So taking everything, your entire journey, all of that stuff, if you have to pinpoint like one lesson that you would tell, your younger self or somebody that's just getting started in business, what would that one lesson be to help them shave off years worth of mistakes into condensed time?
Man, be different ones for different ways. If we're in business, I would say for young entrepreneurs or new entrepreneurs, I hate young because we talk about age. I used to hate when I was young and people said young. Like, yeah. Right? Yep. I like people to be like, boy, I'd be like, oh God, I'm going to kill this guy. One of the hardest things to do in business and to understand and to do in everything we do is it's not about you. That's one of the hardest things to do, right? It's like most people are writing copy, they're writing about them. Right. And like most people are they're like, dude, I put out such great content. I'm like, for you, you're not serving you. Yeah. Right. So that's the problem. You're serving people before they're at this point. And I was talking to a client last night. I was like, brother, I don't want to be I hope you don't take offense to this, but everything you're saying is what you need. Your people aren't at your point. They don't even know what you're talking about. Yeah. Right. They need 15 steps before this, but you're not talking about that. So you're not relating to them. So I think the biggest thing, the thing that we're going to condense a lot of time is if we can get over ourselves faster.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think the ego is what hurts a lot of people. Is they think it's me. And if I don't get what I want first, I can't then go help other people. There's some truth to that, but more often than not, it's all about you, and it can't be all about you.
Right. Right. And it's like, I mean, think about, you get enough people get what they want, you'll get what you want. The problem is we're programmed young. It's like survival of the jungle, right? Like we're really in the jungle, right? And it's like, you got to get yours right before you can get anyone else's right. And you got to do this before this will ever, and you got to have this so this can go. And it's like, so we're programmed to be like, it's about me. It's for me. I have to get this, right? The problem in business is like, we have to change our programming as entrepreneurs and be like, for me to get what I really want, I have to think them.
Yes.
Right. And then when you change it, it's okay because you're like, we will get what we want. We just got to make sure they see we can give them what they want by giving them what they need to get it. And then we'll get ours. Right. Yeah. I would say like an entrepreneur and a guy that works for a company, an entrepreneur, here's the difference. An entrepreneur punches a clock, and at the end of 80 or 40 hours, they believe someone is going to give them a check. Right? We don't get paid before we work. When we used to when I worked for somebody, I didn't get paid before it. I got paid after I clocked in hours. Yeah. Right. it's like this. That's the same thing. The only difference is I don't have to wait for 2 Fridays.
Yeah.
If I can deliver this faster, I can get paid faster.
Yeah. Love that explanation. So I see a lot of books behind you. What's the best book you've ever read that's had the most impact on you?
It's so tough. Because so I always think like the right book at the right time can change shit.
Oh yeah.
I can barely read, right? Like it's like I always tell people like I'm not like people are like you're brilliant. I'm like no, I'm not. I can barely put words together. So the right book at the right time means everything. So like Chop Wood, Carry Water. When I read that book, it was at the right time that my mindset needed it. Because I was so selfish. I was so what am I getting?
Yeah.
Right. Why would I do this? Right. And I became very bitter at some point in entrepreneurship because I was serving people I did not enjoy serving.
Yeah.
All right. And that will make you quickly turn from them to what the hell am I doing? I don't even get enjoyment from them. I'm definitely not getting enjoyment from me.
Yeah.
So that was a great book for me to bring back something that I just forgot. Right.
Yeah.
But then like in business, Contagious was a great book for me at the time I read it because it was different than the normal stream of thinking. And it went into how to make something in a world full of noise stand out.
Yeah.
Right. So it really matters the time. I can go on and on about books, but it really matters the time I read it but Chop Wood, Carry Water, I think brought me back to the mindset in which it was to serve.
Yeah. No, I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, I would say like the typical books that everybody's like, hey, you have to read this, you have to read that. Like those are all really, really good books. And they might be the best book that had overarching the most impact. But I would agree with you to say that there are books that have been at the right place at the right time when I needed to read them, even if it was just one chapter that escalated what I needed to go. So I love what you talk about there. So as we're wrapping everything up, I know you have an event coming up next year. Talk to us about that event. I would love to have the audience learn a little bit more about that.
Thank you, brother. The Movement Maker Live. Dude, so we only run, so you're going to see my mindset here. We only run like one big event, which is a couple hundred people in a room.
Yeah.
A year. All our other ones are more retreat style, workshop style, seminar style.
Yep.
All right. So we're talking typical event 20 to 50 for our retreats and workshop styles, depending on which ones. My favorite one is the men's retreat. That's just one of the coolest things ever for me. I'm always like, people are like, you can sit this one out. I'm like, no, I'll go.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not sitting out.
Yeah.
Right? This is my favorite one. I'm definitely going to this shit. Right. But the Move Makers are one where we bring in, you're going to have like 300 people in the room, right? 250, 300 people in the room.
Yep.
This is our biggest one since COVID, right? Before COVID, we had a little bigger, and then COVID, you know the deal. Everybody knows the deal with COVID kind of shut. When you had an event-driven business, COVID really threw a curveball for us.
Yeah.
But we figured a way. But with this Move Maker first, it's like the speakers alone, right? Just so for us, we're different. I'm not going to get a million big names to feed my ego and to make you think that I have the most amazing connections, where really we all know you just paid a bunch of money.
Yeah.
Right. Like us, anyone in the space, in the business long enough, we know that means you forked out a big dime.
Yeah.
Right. And that means we're probably going to get a hell of an upsell.
Yeah.
Right? To make it all make sense for them. But so that's not really what we look for. When I was younger, and I was, like I said, I was egotistical, or I was stuck in ego. I thought about that, right, and got bigger names. Now, I mean, like Trent Shelton's my boy. That's why he's there. We've worked together multiple times. He's an awesome dude. He's one of the realest people in the space. Just pure, real heart, really cares. It's really refreshing because there's a lot of people that, and you speak, there's some people that their front persona to their back persona, it's like Jesus.
Yeah.
Right. Like I saw one guy yell at somebody about the temperature of water in the green room once, and I was like, Jesus.
Yeah.
Right. I'm like, I can't wait to get fancy enough where the temperature of water matters to me. Right? Like,
Like, that's
I know
my
there's
worst
levels.
problem. Then that's
life
good.
is amazing.
Yeah.
Right. So I go for people that have done or built extraordinary things, like Dr. Rob McClelland, who helped John Maxwell get into over 100 countries. Like, I bring him in because I want to know how you did that.
Yeah.
Right. Because that's going to be helpful. Right. Like Dr. Obama, right. That got Walmart from when it was losing. They brought him in, and he was the one that brought Walmart back. And he worked with the Chargers, and he worked with the Jets in the years that they went from losing to winning. And I'm like, what did you do
Yeah.
that made that happen, right? You worked with Chevron at the same time.
Yeah.
I want to learn that because that's something that I could maybe take a piece and implement.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So you're going to get some motivation, some inspiration, of course. You're going to be able to run through a wall after the event. But my big thing is after you get to the wall, you know where to go.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Mm.
Because I spent years running through walls after events and being like, all right, that was cool. Now go back to the walls, back what I know, because I don't know where the hell to go. Right. So that's part of our event. But our events are a little different. We like to call them experiences, man. So it's not going to be like speaker, launch, speaker. Right. Like I don't like that. I have like ADHD, so I got to keep moving. Right.
Yep.
So we have a lot of networking experiences. We have a thing we call the Celebration of Living Life Unleashed at that event. We bring in the Stormtrooper DJ, literally looks like a Stormtrooper. We bring in live music. We bring in stand-up comedians. We have like fake poker tables and stuff where people can play and actually get chips and go trade them in for stuff, right? Like iPads, laptops, right? Swag, shit like that. All right. So we have those. We have roundtable networking where all the speakers go in and then all the attendees get to go in and they can bounce from roundtable to roundtable and just ask questions, have a conversation with speakers as well. We really set where there's no difference. That's why a lot of speakers don't love me. There is no difference at our event from an attendee to a speaker. We're all the same. A lot of people back into the speaker, we back into the attendees, right? Because they're spending a lot of money with us. We want to make the experience worth it for them. So, and we're in Nashville, which I absolutely love Nashville. Yeah, great city. And we're at, oh my God, amazing, right? Hattie B's is like one of the best chicken sandwiches ever. I don't get it, right? But we're at the Gaylord. What we do that's kind of unique in your ticket price is your room at the Gaylord as well.
Okay.
So you get to stay in the same venue. Something we're doing right now. So I love offers, right? Like I'm, at the end of the day, I'm a marketer. I'll sold. Yeah. All right. So like last year I sold a book for $1,500 to $3,000. It was a book I wrote. So you're saying the guy that failed third grade sold a book for $1,500 to 3 grades. So I'm like, anyone can do this, right? But in the book was like 2 tickets to the event, your hotel room for 2 nights, right? Like, so then all of a sudden the offer of the book was like, oh, it's a no-brainer, buy the book. Yeah. Because if you just want to buy a ticket, I was on when someone's like, dude, I don't need all that. Just let me buy a ticket. I'm like, cool, that's $5,000. Yeah. And they're like, I'll buy the book. Like, smart man. I'll buy the book. You're a smart person. Yeah. So this year we did a deck of cards.
Okay. Yeah.
All right. Because when I was young, my grandfather had a speakeasy in New York City. Right. It was freaking awesome, man. I used to sneak down there and just watch, bro. And they had like one poker table. Right. And you had to be a man's man to be invited to sit at that table. They would just play cards and talk, tell stories, right? Laugh, right? Have some drinks. It was an amazing time. I loved just watching, right? And I always wanted to be the caliber of man that got invited to that table. All right. So this year I was throwing a throwback to my grandfather. All right. And I was like, dude, we're going to give out decks of cards and we're going to have tables that people can play at because we're all the caliber of people that can be there. Yeah. All right. So we set up a lot of different networking experiences. And this year we sold a deck of cards. We got 2 tickets, 2 room nights, and all the add-ons. Like you got the VIP package for the deck of cards. So it's going to be a blast, man. I keep saying it's going to be my Thriller. You know, Michael Jackson's pretty much known for Thriller. Yeah. You know, he has amazing other songs. Yeah. This one's going to be my Thriller. I don't know if we'll top it.
Yeah. Man, that's amazing. How can people find out about it? What website can they get to?
Beunleashed.com. Perfect. And then also you can just find me and ask. I think it's more expensive on the site right now than I'm selling it for. Isn't that really weird? Okay. Yeah. Everybody's like, why don't people buy a lot through the site? I'm like, I don't know. But it's probably because I'm giving them a better deal. Yeah. And we only have we have like 10 spots left. So
awesome.
Well, a couple people cancel.
We'll put all that stuff in the show notes. And then where can people connect with you online to get the special price? What's the best place to find you?
Damn right. You can find me on Facebook, Michael Fabber. Okay. On some of the other social media handles, I'm the Coach Mike Fabber. Guys, I literally mean when I say like no one's alone and you're not a burden to me. My phone number is public and my direct number, not some SMS service. All right. Like my direct email is public. Right. Like if you ever have a question or concern, you're going through something, you're battling something, you're not alone. We'll be there. All you got to do is reach out.
Man, I appreciate you. We'll put all that stuff in the show notes. Thanks so much for coming on, man. It was a great time. I'm glad we got to finally connect and learned a lot about you. And I know the audience is going to get some insight, man.
Thank you, brother. Dude, you're great at this, bro. You make it real natural. Normally I'm real quiet and weird during these, but you made me talk. So I appreciate you, man.
That's the goal. I appreciate it, man. We'll definitely link up soon and looking forward to continue watching your journey, man.
Damn right. Right back at you, man. All the wins.
And I want to thank you again to the audience for tuning in today's podcast. Please be sure to subscribe, download, and share our content. Leaving a 5-star review goes a long way. We'll see you all next week. And remember, entrepreneurs aren't born, they are brewed.
I'm an entrepreneur, so I'm born to prove. Thank you for listening to Entrepreneur Podcast with your host, Adam McChesney.